Michael Black's No Comics here. Let's talk The Defenders, Season 1, also known as the only season. I guess it was planned that way. I don't know. The way it's written on there is that it's a limited series. And I guess what that means is they didn't plan on making more. Also, it's shorter than a full season. It's only 8 episodes, which I didn't really realize until I got to the 8th one. I said, wow, this sure feels like a finale. And then as I was watching a little more, I was thinking, this is going to be really weird. What are they going to do for the next few episodes? And then I looked up and said, okay, it is the finale. So it made sense. This is where it really paid off to be watching these Netflix shows in chronological order, because while you could watch this without seeing any of the shows, it's kind of like, well, this is very comparable to the Avengers with the movies. So if you watched all the individual movies and got to know those heroes, you got more out of it than if you just jumped into an Avengers movie and were being introduced to them for the first time. And this is pretty much the exact same thing. It takes all 4 of the major shows, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage, and it brings all those people together. It brings the main characters and some supporting characters, which I kind of liked. It really made it feel like these people were living in the same world, and it was fun to see them come together and interact. I almost like seeing some of the secondary characters interact even more than seeing the heroes interact. And the way it's set up is pretty cool. It takes a little while before everyone starts coming together. It's little by little. So I think for the first episode, maybe the first episode and a half, you're seeing things happen independently to the different 4 heroes, and things are kind of building up until there's an event at the end of the first episode that's a shared event amongst all of them, because it happens citywide where there's a major earthquake. And that's where you start to see, even though they've been showing kind of their different stories, there's something connecting them and there's something coming up. And I like the way, that was actually pretty cool the way that was set up. And they do a nice job of giving you the feel of each character and where they're at now and what's going on. One thing that was a little kind of disappointing was Luke Cage. It ended season 1 with him going to jail. So this one picks up with him in jail, but it picks up with him just getting out of jail. So that whole kind of arc was just done off screen, which is a little disappointing, because I wanted to see more follow-up with that, and I thought it'd be interesting to see, but it wouldn't really fit with you need him to be out for the story. So and then it feels like forever since I watched Jessica Jones. From watching them in order, that first season was a little while ago, because I think we had another season we had Luke Cage, and then we had another Daredevil, and we had Iron Fist since then. So it's kind of fun catching back up with her. One of the things that's interesting is with these 4 heroes coming together, you really see what's the same and different about them. And with something like the Avengers, the differences are more pronounced. In this, it's like what is each character's role? It's kind of weird because they're not as distinct as you would think, because we've got Daredevil, who's like a great martial artist that happens to have this really great hearing power and these heightened senses. Then you have Iron Fist, who's this martial arts superhero who happens to have this really strong punch he can summon. So there's a little overlap between them on what they bring to the table. And then you have Luke Cage, who's really strong and he has impenetrable skin. And then you have Jessica Jones, who's basically just really strong, but not as strong as Luke Cage. So she doesn't bring quite as much to it, besides being a surly kind of drunk that doesn't want to participate. So it's kind of weird in that way, like power-wise, things don't really add up all that well. And then Daredevil's the only one that's like a traditional superhero. He's the only one that dresses up and has his superhero name and his secret identity and his separation between his private life and his public superhero persona. And it's very striking when he's the only one like worrying about putting on something to cover up his face, or worried about it coming out that he's Matt Murdock and that he's a lawyer. So it's just kind of weird. I don't know. There's a little commentary on it, and it's fun. The characters all kind of make fun of each other, and at points they don't get along, so you get some pretty good fights between the characters. Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, of course, had a lot of interaction on her show, so it's more of a reuniting for them, which is kind of fun. But the other characters have not met before, so it's interesting seeing them all come together. And then the main focus of the show, well, the main villain focus of the show is the Hand. So like we've seen already in Iron Fist and in Daredevil, it's continued here. And well, I didn't love it in Daredevil Season 2, and I liked it a little more in Iron Fist. I'm fine with it here. You need something that's big enough to bring people together and to create a cause that's large enough that not one of them could handle it on their own. So the Hand coming together with following up with what happened at the very end of Daredevil Season 2 with Elektra, the whole Black Sky thing gets followed up on here, and that's kind of interesting. It didn't feel as left field as it did with Season 2 of Daredevil. It felt more earned here, so I didn't have a problem with it. And Sigourney Weaver becomes a major player in it, but then it does the same thing that I talked about with Luke Cage and a little bit with Iron Fist, where partway through the season the villain focus just shifts from one person to another, which is kind of a strange thing. And like I said, this is kind of a truncated show. It's only 8 episodes compared to the regular 13 that all these other Marvel Netflix shows are. And I think it's the better for it because it's always moving forward. It's almost structured like a long movie or something. It's definitely got kind of an overall story arc that it continually moves forward with, and it doesn't have that mid-season lull that I've noticed in a few of the other shows. Overall, I really enjoyed it. It was really fun seeing them come together. With the obvious kind of Avengers comparison and this being done for TV on a smaller budget than those big movies, it's kind of interesting when you think about stakes and when you think about like Luke Cage. He's the powerhouse here, but his power compared to the powerhouse of the Avengers, the Hulk, is nothing. I mean, he could knock over a car or punch through a wall and stuff like that, but like for the Hulk, he does that stuff simply. And like when they're doing their fights, they're fighting normal humans, well, ninjas usually, but they're fighting people without powers for a lot of it. But it's like close quarters, one-on-one, hand-to-hand combat, and they get knocked around. Whereas you imagine like the Avengers doing that a lot. I don't know, like the big showdown here, and then I think of the Avengers with their stakes of saving the planet and how much they're able to accomplish. Is kind of, if you don't keep that in mind, I think it helps, because if you compare the two, it's not that favorable. But I actually prefer this more street level stuff because it's more relatable and it doesn't pull you out so much. When all these Marvel things, kind of the joke is that they all end with a big hole in the sky that they've got to close and stop, and aliens and stuff. And I mean, I told you I had kind of a problem with all these ninjas showing up. If it was just a bunch of aliens showing up, that would be even more like out there. So overall, I thought it was really good. I think it's a bummer that this is the only one they did. It would have been cool if they did another one to end the whole run, because from here on out, it'd be like their phase 2 of the shows, but they're not building towards anything because there's no final payoff. So I don't know. We'll keep chugging through them all and see. I don't remember what show's coming next. I got to look at my list. But it's been fun, and this felt like a nice payoff to everything. I liked it a lot. I'll give it a 9. I'll say that it's definitely worth watching. It definitely made it feel like watching all these other things ahead of time was a good idea, and I would recommend it. So check it out, and I'll catch you next time.